Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go over 5 of the biggest mistakes that I made when I first started in Leathercraft, and some of them lasted a little bit longer than just the beginning. So as you can see here, I have a lot of tools sitting here. And this is I still have this issue sometimes where I expect to use something, so I'll grab it, I'll put it to the side, and then I'll either use it and put it right there, I won't put it back. And then towards the end, you get an accumulation of just a bunch of different tools. And then one, you got to put them all back. 2, if you're still working, if they're not put back in the same place, they're hard to find, which can be really frustrating. So it slows you down. And just having a specific place where they sit. I have like a little rolling cart here that I have all of my stuff on. So I know pretty well where things are at. And it's not just having tools laying around, it's also the workspace. I've had issues, especially early on. I don't do it any longer, but I wouldn't do a good job of cleaning my cutting boards or cutting mats. And one of the issues that I had a lot of the time is when using these disposable blade knives, a lot of times this tip will chip off when you're cutting and it'll get stuck in the board or your cutting mat, and then you can be moving around your pieces or whatever and it'll slice through part of the leather. So I was getting a lot of pieces that looked used before they were even completed. Same thing goes for like marks, or like there'd be dye and then I would run some leather across it and then it's discolored. So keeping that kind of thing clean helps you keep your sanity. You know where things are at. You're more efficient. And also it pretty much just keeps your leather safe. You're not having to worry about it getting scratched up or damaged. And yeah, just clean up as you go. It makes it a lot easier. I'm not a big fan of cleaning, but it makes it simpler. And especially when I first started, I would get a bunch of stuff out. It would just sit. And then I was like, I don't feel like it. I'll do it later. So then the next time I come to make a wallet, I have to put it all away and then I'm going to get it back out again. So you might as well just put it all away at once. It's pretty self-explanatory. And a lot of you probably don't have this issue, but I know that's an issue that I had. But the main reason we're talking about this is because of what it can do to your leather, because I've had that issue a lot where I basically had to throw away a wallet or a keychain just because it got dinged up from not having a clean working space. All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is dull tools. So we don't want any dull tools. It makes leather working more difficult. The more pressure you put, the more likely you are to not be as precise, which is one issue that I had, especially with lower quality tools, which we'll touch on later in the video. So basically all you're going to want to do is you're going to want to strop. And after you get to a point where the strop isn't doing anything anymore, you're going to want a whetstone, which is just different grits. And you basically work that edge back up to where you want it to get it nice and sharp again. So this is what I have. It's just a cheapo, I think it was like $20 from Rocky Mountain Leather, but it's double-sided. You just rub some jeweler's rouge on here, which is also inexpensive. There's different colors. I just have the green compound. So you rub it on there. And then you're going to go backwards in all your knives. It's really easy. You can do it like after you use it every couple uses, or after every use. It's quick, it's easy, and just make sure that you're staying sharp. And there's even times where I don't really want to get rid of one of the blades I'm on for my dispensable blades or my disposable blades, and I'll just go ahead and touch up that edge and it'll get cut and nice again. So makes it a lot easier. Also, I want to talk about injuries, because I've had a couple of those where I've had tools that are not sharp enough and you're trying to work it through the leather, especially thicker leather, and it'll slip on you because your knife's not sharp, and then you can cut yourself, which I do not recommend. That happened to me a decent amount. I do a much better job of keeping my tools sharp now. And part of that too is the quality of the cuts that you get and the precision. It just makes it a whole lot easier. Um, and I think another one of the issues that I had with having dull tools is it was hard to cut the leather perpendicular. I seemed to always like curve around because I was trying to put so much pressure down on the blade. So I would basically be bending the blades to the side because of how hard I had to push through. Um, and even if you are using some thick leather and it's hard to get through, you're better off taking multiple passes than trying to force it through, which is one thing that I did a lot. Um, I don't really work with leather that's that tough anymore. I use a lot of Horween Derby, so it's pretty soft and it's easy to work with. It's durable. So it kind of depends on what leather you use, but definitely make sure that your tools are nice and sharp. Next up here, we're going to talk about another mistake that I made, which is buying low quality tools. So I know a lot of people out there probably did what I did. You wanted to get into Leathercraft basically as cheap as possible. You didn't want to spend a bunch of money on tools and expensive leather because you don't know if you even like it yet. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but at a certain point, when you realize that you want to do this for a longer period of time, then I would recommend upgrading your tools. These are two of the tools that I used a lot from the get-go from Amazon, and they just they were more frustrating than helpful, and I would actually try to do my projects without using them. Another tool that I no longer have, I had some pretty bad edge bevelers, and they just didn't cut well. I tried to sharpen them. The edges on them weren't very good, and that resulted in a lot of frustration because when I would go to bevel the edge, it would always catch the leather and it would end up just tearing it. And it got to a point where I pretty much wanted to just be done with Leathercraft. But I decided, well, let me see if I can get some better tools, see if that'll help out at all. And it did. Obviously, this is a little bit difficult. There's a gray area because I wasn't good at leather yet, but it just seemed like I couldn't get better until I got a tool that actually did the job well. So yeah, I mean, it was like night and day difference. The projects still weren't great. It took a lot of time and effort, and I'm still trying to get better and really make my finished products as high quality and durable as they can be. But you definitely want to upgrade your tools. And another thing too, they don't need to be crazy expensive. I still use a lot of tools from Amazon even, or I've even purchased more expensive tools and I ended up using the cheaper tools instead. Like I have a nice indispensable blade, or a nice indispensable with a really strong charter made blade. And I don't use that at all anymore. Part of that is because it's hard for me to sharpen. So that's really a me thing, but I would much rather grab this when I can just snap the blade off and then I'm good to go with another edge. And it's inexpensive. It does the job really well. There's plenty of other tools like this. I mean, I still buy things on Amazon. Like this is an Odin French skiver, and I use this to skive all the time and it works great. So you don't necessarily, a low quality tool, I mean, they're normally going to be a little bit cheaper, but a high quality or good quality tool doesn't need to break the budget, doesn't need to break the bank, it doesn't need to be overly expensive. I think the most expensive thing I have is a Barry King Maul, and this was maybe like $80 or $90. And then you can kind of work your way up over time too. You don't need to buy all the great tools at once. If you have something that you use a lot, like Palo Santo edge bevelers, I use the 0 Plus a ton. So then after I started using this more often, I thought that I could have more utility if I had a couple different sizes. So then I got one that was a 0 for an even smaller bevel, which was really helpful. And then, okay, let's go a little bit bigger. So you can kind of feel it out and see what would be helpful during your Leathercraft journey. And just kind of see what you need. You don't need everything right at once. Obviously, there are right tools for specific jobs. Um, but yeah, I don't quit too early. I almost did, and I honestly don't know what I would be doing with the majority of my time now if I was not doing leather work. So just stick with it. Um, if anybody wants any tool recommendations, I can help out with that as well, especially for more affordable things. I haven't really splurged a whole lot on really expensive tools. So, yeah, make sure that you are using tools of high quality. All right, so mistake number 4 that I made is I was buying leather panels for far too long. They're great when you're starting out. You don't need a lot of leather, and you can get some high quality leather at an attainable price where you're not buying a whole hide. Um, so I think this might be like, this is Butero Concierge Walpier. I don't know if I said that correctly because it's Italian. So sorry if I did not. But I would buy these a lot because I always wanted different colors. I wanted to try different leathers out. And when you're buying these, I think this was probably like 2 square feet, and it's like 30 or 40 bucks when I can go buy a hide. So like lately I've been buying hides of Horween Derby, and I think it's like 18 to 20 some square feet of leather for like $200. So I'm getting way more leather for what I'm paying for, but I would consistently buy these, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but if you know you're going to use a leather a lot, or especially if you're starting out and you know you have a lot of projects that you're going to do, you don't need to buy an expensive hide. But buying hides is definitely more cost effective. You're not paying for shipping because I was constantly getting leather shipped to my house. So there is utility for these, especially if you have a small project. Some things you just don't need a huge hide. But at this point, a lot of what I make is the same type of leather, so there's really no reason for me to buy panels anymore. It's just a lot more cost effective. I don't have to wait for leather to come in. And I have that leather there and ready to be used. So it's really nice. The one downside of whole hide or of buying hides is not the entirety of the leather is not generally usable. There are going to be blemishes. There are parts where some of the flesh is going to be loose. That is one good part about buying panels. I've never received a panel that had really any imperfection that deemed it not usable for a leather product. So you kind of give and you take. Each has their, they both have good aspects and bad aspects, but if you're going to be using a lot of a specific type of leather, make sure you're buying hides. That's just the way to go. All right, so for our last tip, one of the issues I had with making patterns is they weren't perfect. Obviously, you can only get them so perfect, but one of the issues that I had, especially when I was cutting out my patterns, it would be like a rough kind of idea of what I wanted to do for a project. I would get that, and then when I would actually get into cutting the leather and everything, it wouldn't be exactly the same as the pattern. I'd be doing like little cuts here and there, like, oh, this would look better. So there's a couple issues with this. Obviously, you're not going to replicate the same wallet every time. And if you plan on selling it, or if you have a wallet that works for you that you like to keep making, having a pattern is perfect because you can replicate that every single time. And you're not doing a bunch of measuring and things like that. I know one person I recommend watching is Mask on Leather. He is by far my favorite YouTuber, leather YouTuber to watch. He has a lot of good tips and tricks. He's got great products, great craftsman. And I know he always says he measures once for his patterns and then he never measures again, which makes leatherworking a lot faster. It's not as tedious. You're not pulling out your ruler and everything all the time unless you're just cutting edges, which is really helpful. And I don't know, it just makes it easier because a lot of the things that I would do is I would like put a credit card down on a piece of leather when I first started, and I would try to give myself a little tolerance on the side so I could get my stitches in there and things like that. And it never seemed to work out well. Um, and if it did work out, I had no idea how to replicate it a second time. So the best thing that you can do is make patterns. I know some people will do them online. I think maybe in Adobe Illustrator, that might not be the right thing. But basically what I do is I just grab some cardstock, and I will do my measurements and everything, and I'll draw it and then cut it out. And then if I can get that to work with leather, then I'll transfer it over to this, which is honey bunches of oats, honey bunches of oats, I think. I don't know. But it works really well. I did buy some of this. This is supposed to be 4 patterns, but I find it to be ridiculously hard to use. It slips like crazy, which is an issue. Even cutting it was difficult. But then when you're trying to put it down on leather, it constantly wants to move, even if you put weight on it. So I just really didn't like working with this stuff. So that can go away. This, I mean, literally any box, you want to make sure that it doesn't have, like, this is just one piece of cardboard. You don't want the kind that has like the little ridges in the middle. It tends to bend, and it's just hard to cut, hard to trace as well. So I would recommend using this, like food boxes or anything like that. It's really easy to use. And I would also recommend giving as much detail on these as you can. If you need to put notes down, you can do that. But I noticed when I first started, especially, I didn't have really any rhyme or reason for my patterns. Like, it was just a rough estimate. This would be like my main piece, and that's all I had. But now, as you can see here, I have these little holes here. This is my card slot. So I'll punch holes here. I know they're in the same correct spot every time. I know that this is parallel with the top and the bottom. And sometimes even too, if I have a pattern that's off, I'll maybe make a note or say what I want to change on it. I have 3 different versions of this specific pattern before I got it to a point that I liked it. So this is the first one that I made. It fit cards, but it was way too tight. It was like fitting a golf ball through a garden hose. Then I went with this one. Width was really good. My issue was somehow I ended up, I mean, you can see these holes here. We'll line that up there. One is way higher than the other, which obviously you don't want a jagged line going that way unless it was intended that way, which it wasn't. It wasn't steep enough for it to look good. So then here's the third one that I came up with. And this one was perfect. This one I made sure my measurements were correct. I don't know what happened on the previous one. But this just, I don't know, it makes it a lot easier. And honestly, I could do even more with this. I could put little lines here or draw on where my stitch lines or where I want my stitch lines. So I don't have my wallet the actual wallet for this that I have, but basically it's like this. It's slightly slimmer, and I stop around here, and then there's rounded edges up here. So I could technically go up here, draw a little indent here, and then I could mark on my leather where I want to end. I can still do that, and I've been able to do that fine, but it also makes it more difficult, and it takes longer because I don't have that set distance, which I do use bump jigs to get that distance, but it would be easier if I just included it on the pattern. So I think after this video, that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is replicating, but also not going out of order. I know when I first started going out of order, I would basically get most of the way through a leather wallet and then realize, oh, I didn't burnish this edge that I can't get to anymore. Or I glued over the top of this pocket that needed to be, or a T pocket. I was supposed to go ahead and punch my holes and stitch so it was an end to keep the card up higher in this pocket than the next pocket, preceding pocket. And And then I couldn't do that. The glue was there, but I can't expect the glue to hold for a long time or long term. So then I either have to take it apart or I have to trash the entire wallet. So just having patterns, making sure you're not missing things is really helpful. Take your time. That's one of the other things. I always wanted to rush and just get something done to see what it turned out to be. And I mean, it takes me a long time to make stuff now. I mean, you can only go so fast, especially it's a handmade product. I don't have any special tools like a clicker press or yeah. I mean, you just kind of got to deal with what you have. But patterns are the way to go. Always make patterns. You honestly should always start with patterns as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we went over my 5 mistakes of not cleaning up your space, using dull tools, buying low quality tools, buying leather panels, and not having good patterns. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helps you. If anybody has any questions, I will do my best to answer them. And if anybody else has any tips for me, please feel free to let me know. I'm always trying to learn, always trying to find a better way to make products, be more efficient, things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.